Are you all set, Megan?
Camera thinks I'm a lot bigger or smaller. Ready?
Yep.
All right. I will call to order at 6:32 the meeting of the Essex Junction Development Review Board for it's not December 15th, but we are February 16th. Okay, so we have any additions? Do we have any additions or amendments to the agenda tonight?
We do not.
All right. Second item is public to be heard. Is anybody in the audience who wishes to say something that is not on the agenda tonight? Anybody? Nobody. Very good. Do we have anybody connected remotely? Can you tell?
No, we don't have anybody
I don't
else.
see anybody on the screen in there. So.
Yeah, there's nobody else.
Okay, good. Don't want to miss anybody. Okay, item 3, regular minutes from November 17th. Seems like a long time ago. Is that right?
January 12th.
All right. So I have an old agenda here. That's what I have here. Good. That'd be excellent. Thank you. No wonder it's all so funny. All right. Regular meeting minutes from January 12th. May I have a motion to approve those minutes? It's your chance. Oh.
Forget what I have to say. Motion to approve.
All right.
Seconded?
All right. Any discussion, changes, corrections, alterations, typos to the meeting minutes? Hearing none, all in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries.
So, John, I'm happy to read script number 1 for you if you would like.
I would love that.
Excellent. Okay, the meeting of the Essex Junction DRB will come to order. You did that already, sorry. This meeting is a hybrid meeting held at both 2 Lincoln Street and on Zoom. Because there may be technical difficulties or reasons that otherwise prevent or interrupt remote public participation, it's important to note that the open meeting law only ensures the public's right to participate and comment at a public meeting by attending at the designating physical location as posted in the notice and agenda. If a member of the public or of the public body has technical difficulties accessing this meeting remotely, please alert us by using the chat feature on Zoom or by emailing rmahoney@essexjunction.org. And in the event of a technical difficulty that cannot be resolved, we will continue the meeting if necessary to March 16th. Should have been able to come up with that right off the top of my head. At 6:30 p.m. at 2 Lincoln Street, Essex Junction. Please note that all votes taken during this meeting that are not unanimous will be done by roll call vote in accordance with the law. As required by the open meeting law, let's start the meeting by taking a roll call attendance of all members, but you guys are all here in the room, so you're all good.
All right. Thank you very much. I do have a potential conflict of interest that I need to disclose, and you all can decide what you think on recusal. I know the applicants on the first hearing. I worked with them briefly on the project, but over a year ago. I haven't actually seen the drawings that are being presented until they came in the packet. So I just need to know, and as far as I know, I don't know that I'm currently working for them. So I've got an open mind. I don't think there's anything about the work that we did, which was relative to the apartments upstairs, that is germane to what we're actually reviewing, which is the site plan. So I'm on the board's mercy for this, I guess, but I think it's fine. So anybody have an objection to me staying, raise it now if and that includes the applicants. And if you think it's fine, then I'll stay.
I have no objection.
No objection.
I have no objection.
Anybody else? Okay, I guess I'll stay. Great. So we are up to the public hearing. First one is a conceptual site plan to renovate second floor of a two-story building into a six one-bedroom apartments at 1 Jackson Street in the MCU district by Fat Tire LLC, Ron LaFountain and Christy Wilds owners. I see the applicants are here. I don't know if there's anybody with you, but you're welcome to come up to the table and give us a little run through. And I also want to make sure that everybody's aware you got we have two conceptual applications in front of us tonight. None of them are in the design control district. So technically the only thing we're reviewing is site plan, even though in the first package there were a lot more drawings, right? But the real issue is site plan. And so I just wanted to keep going. You're welcome to tell us all about the bedrooms and the drawing, the elevations, but that's not really, we can only look at those. We can't really make you do much about it.
The oath.
Oh, I need to know. Highlighted piece. Okay, so all who intend to speak tonight on behalf of any or all of these applications, repeat after me or answer I do. I hereby swear that the evidence I give in the cause under consideration shall be the whole truth and nothing but the truth under the pains and penalties of perjury.
I do.
Thank you. All right, off you go.
Where would you like us to start?
Can we get a copy of this up on the screen? Is that how this works? So they can present.
I have it all up, but like what should I put up?
I would think probably
The site plan, right?
site plan revised, I would go with.
So, in support of the application, we have the site plan, we have some other floor plans, we have the city engineer's comments, and we have a staff report, all packaged up for you. So we've seen all of those. Have you seen the staff comments?
Yeah.
Ron?
Yes.
Yeah.
I'm here.
Okay, good. So when you go through the site plan and tell us what you're doing, after that, maybe you can just address the staff comments and either tell us you're complying with them or if you have any questions or comments.
Okay, so this is the site plan for the property that is that's back there near the city's municipal garage, small shed area, maintenance shop, that we bought about 2 years ago. Formerly light commercial manufacturing, I guess it would be. Flexi-Seal was there for a long time, had a lot of employees, not enough parking. And we moved our business in there, Chase Moving and Storage, which we do a lot of long distance moves. And there was this front building, it's 2 stories, that was kind of vacant, was not leased up, hasn't been leased up. The second floor was fit up for office space, conference rooms, things like that. Being that there was a lot of space available in Chittenden County that was vacant due to COVID and people working from home, we thought that why compete in the market of office space leasing on that second floor, that we might try something different. And we knew about this housing problem that we're having, and we thought maybe that would be a good use of the space. The construction of that building is it's significant to the village of, at the time, of Essex Junction, now city. But has been many things over the years. It's post and beam, big timber, post and beam construction, high ceilings in the first floor, about 14 and a half, 15 feet, floor to joist. And then the second floor has a flat pitched roof that is at its highest maybe a 10'8" and its lowest like 9 foot. And we plan to, there are two sets of stairwells that service that second floor. We are nestled up against the railroad. Don't speak with them too much, but they are there. And the building was served by the railroad for many years when it was a creamery and then a maple factory, and many other things. We have a neighbor, which is commercial with an apartment that he lives in. Next door, there's a residence next door with a commercial butler style building on the property that he leases out. Our other neighbor is the city on the other side. And we have gathered a lot of information from different variations of drawings that we've had about the property and the physical property ourselves. We happen to, have keys to everything so we can get in and look around. And we came up with this site plan, which there was a little kerfuffle. It was off scale a little bit. I've corrected that, and I believe that that's what we're looking at for the current plan is correct. It was off just a smidge, not a smidge in the same way in both directions, but it's now fixed. That's kind of the overview of what the property is, I guess, and if you all know kind of where that is in the corner of Jackson and Elm. And then I would think you probably should talk about the plans for.
Yeah. So, interestingly enough, everything that you see here is already existing. We're doing nothing to the outside, and we've done nothing to the outside. This was all either done from Flexaseal or Crestanetti, who purchased it from Flexaseal. Crestanetti did get permits, and they did do some exterior work. It's beautiful now. If you haven't driven by it to see it, it's really very pretty. And they our offices are in the red brick building, which used to be an old boiler room. So we've really, the integrity of what the building used to be has really been maintained. And our plan is to not do, typical cookie cutter apartments, but to really, as much as I can, to try to maintain the integrity of that space. We're leaving the existing floors and we're going to refinish them, and they're beautiful old wood. There's some really nice, big beams that we're leaving. I'd love to leave a couple of open ceilings and some shiplap, and if we can, I'm not sure if we can or not. But so anyway, everything that's there on the exterior is existing. The landscaping is existing. We did verify, I think, the water line and the sewer is sufficient. We've spoken to Terry Haas about hooking up, and we know what's involved with
Next
there.
steps there.
Yep. The building is currently sprinkled, and we've spoken to a sprinkler company to get the sprinkler upgraded to whatever's required for residential. We had our fire inspection with Jesse Diggins.
Dolbecky, State Fire Marshal.
Oh, State Fire Marshal. And everything was good. So, yeah, so I just wanted to speak a little bit about the building because it's really, we really do like it, and it's really interesting space, really nice loft space. So I think at the end of the day, it'll be really nice.
We're not bulldozing anything,
No, yeah.
which I think, given the significance of that building in the landscape of the village, city, for 120 years, some of the houses that are scattered around there are as old or have been added on to. Lee Turry's property is, his mother's house is across the street, and there's very few buildings in the pictures that we see of the 1900s. And so we thought, we don't want to just go bulldoze something and put up vanilla envelopes with steel doors, and a little character, I guess, is the point that we're trying to make.
All right. I think it's awesome. And I will also disclose that I worked on the building for Flexaseal for probably 5 years before they ended up moving. And I worked with Nettie and Cresta on the renovations to the building, so I know it pretty well. I don't know it as well as probably Ron knows it because he's physically spent a lot more time in there. But I'm pretty familiar with it, so I'm going to ask the rest of the board to ask a lot of questions, and I do want to go over the site plan components, because the project, as I understand it, is basically a fit up of existing space
Yeah.
that already exists. The
Yeah.
building itself, you're not proposing to change on the outside.
Nope.
And so what we're really saying is, for this particular use, which is allowed in this district, what site plan elements would land development code either provide some guidance on, or suggest, or require, in order for this to handle that use? So one of them was parking spaces. There were a few parking spaces that can we just go through the staff comments here, and maybe just the ones where the staff recommends we're doing something? And I don't actually have
Is
that
that,
listed, so I'm going
item
from-
E was the
Oh, he's talking, yeah.
Okay. I left my whole pile of stuff brought the wrong end. All right. So I want to touch on these items, and then when we need a response from the applicant, we can get to that.
If you want, John, staff can walk through those if you'd like, the bold ones.
You want to do that, and then if the board, because there were a couple of things that you were requesting that the board make a determination on. So I want to make sure we get to those. Again, this is conceptual, so we're not locked into something, but we're providing our input on the plan. And, generally speaking, I don't see anything wrong with it. It's allowed, and it's in an existing building, and you guys are going to work out how all of that comes to play with the fire marshal and everything, so that's great. So I want to make sure we touch on the other pieces. Yeah.
Happy to run through if you want me to run through them. So let's start with the parking area in general. So it's existing, all the spaces exist there now. There's a couple of areas on the site inside the parking area where the aisle width between the existing parking spaces that are 90 degrees is narrower than 24 feet, which is what the land development code requires. Some of it meets or exceeds it. There's a few spots where there's some pinch points. And in looking at that, I don't see an issue with that. It's all existing. Everything's all good. But in looking at it a little bit closer, now that we're going to have residents coming and going, we thought it would be good if we talked about spaces 25, 31, and 32 and eliminating those. By eliminating those three spaces, you would still have sufficient parking for the uses that are at the site, but it would provide a little bit more space and help us with those aisle widths that are required by the code.
Can you point to that site plan and just tell me which ones those are?
Can you point?
I can't really read.
Right.
Focus there. So there's two right there. And I should point out here, we're going to get to it, but the site plan right above the cursor, there's an island between the building and the parking that's there. And we'll talk about the site plan and the scale issue after, but there's a few features that are not represented on the plan that are really there in the world. And so based on Google Earth imagery, you can see that. It looks like there's a lot of space behind parking space number 32 on the plan. But if you look at Google Earth, there's a little bit of a pinch point there because there's an island. With all the backing maneuvers that are going to be taking place with all of those parking spaces in that tight little spot, we thought it might be good to get rid of those last two and provide a little more space for backing. And then the other parking space is number 25, which is on the end row here. By eliminating that, it just opens up space between 20 parking spaces, 25 and 26. If a car happens to be in 25 and in 26, it pinches that exit and entrance way right there. So we're not proposing tearing up pavement. This is take the stripes away. There's just no striping there. Leave the pavement.
If it works anything like the parking lot by my office building, which is also an apartment, cars will park
They may
in the non-numbered spot, even if it's not technically a parking space. Seems to work fine.
And in this case, the code requires a total of 25 parking spaces by
And they have a
the
few
code
extra.
requirements, and they have 32 now. If we take these 3 away, they'll be left with 29, which is still more.
All right, so do the applicants have any issue with unstriping 3 spots?
I do.
Yeah, I went, the two, grassy areas that, on the east side that, Jeff is talking about, I don't know why I didn't put them on there. It was not intentional, but they are there. I went out and measured. We're short about 2 feet, between the end of that stripe of the parking space you're looking to get rid of, and 24 feet. And so I'm just wondering if carving that dirt out of there and filling it with pavement makes it a traveled portion of the road. The open areas of grass that are on the corner there are almost pointless in the first place. I'm not sure why they're not full of covered in pavement already. Just the way that they're shaped, and that, we bought a piece of property that was okay with this parking been used for a long time by Flexaseal, and by removing those spots, we wonder what position that'll put us in, because we don't know what's going to go in that bottom space. Right now, it's considered to be storage on the first floor. It could be a use that's allowed, might be a brewery, and with food, and what does that do? Look at what Black Flannel has up on the hill. Lots of parking, but it's full all the time when they're open. So I'm wondering what happens then. And I'll let you finish.
Do you have
I
little
have a Google
drawing?
Earth image, if I can pass that around. I didn't submit it here, but so where we're talking about, I can come and point to you guys, but those are the islands that are there.
So up against the building more?
Are these
Yeah.
The ones that they're talking about, we're talking about is that one and that one and that one. And there was discussion with staff that just there's a lot of maneuvering going on, especially in the corner over there with people backing up. And we thought we might just give them some more space.
You know,
So we're talking about these two?
yeah, those are the islands and then these are the parking spaces.
Yeah.
I'll add to that. We've been in there as tenants, or we've been in there as tenants / owners of the building, running a business in that corner for 3 years now. We never had any problems with traffic.
I guess I'll add that I personally parked over there probably 50 times and I don't remember the islands.
If you look at them there on the screen, they make hardly any sense to me while
Yeah.
they're even there.
Yeah.
Well, they may be, I'm wondering if they're new grass, I think that,
Your
And-
previous owners put in.
Doug and Fernando put in, I think.
Yeah, I don't have any documentation that goes back far enough or shows them. Actually, I've never seen it on a drawing before. They did, I think they added an overhead door maybe to that little shed, and
Oh, that shed, so that, right where that black car is parked, that shed was a delivery spot for all their panel trucks. So that was
So it's been there
the
a
shipping and receiving essentially came out of there, as well as the overhead doors on the
Yeah.
larger metal portions in the back.
yeah, I mean, that image says a lot, and I did measure that off. I think we're about 2 feet and change short on the measurement up to 24 feet. But I do understand what you're trying to accomplish, and I'm not, certainly not, I'm opposed to doing it, but I'm certainly not arguing.
Well, let's keep talking about it because there's some other
Sure.
topics that were involved in residential use and landscaping that we haven't talked about yet. So let's keep
Okay, of
going.
Of course, I'll keep plugging along. So another bolded item is building height. I don't think this is any question, but the elevation views said they were not to scale. So I don't know how tall the building is. I just need the applicant to look at us and say they're less than 58 feet.
I can
They are
probably-
less than probably 30 feet,
And-
but they're less than 58. Yes, thank you for
I
that.
was gonna say, even if they're not, you're not gonna do anything about it. So,
Correct.
yeah.
Well,
There is one taller section that used to have an elevator or some kind of a big hoist. And it's just out of the picture on the screen here, just below that. But I don't think that's even close to maybe 40 feet or something
Yeah,
like
the
that.
north edge, which
I
is
don't
the top of the
Yeah,
screen,
right there.
has got like, I don't know what the architect would know, but it's like a wall that sticks up above the roof line, the height in the facade of the building by like 3 feet. I don't know what it's called, but it doesn't
Parapet.
really.
I
So,
don't disagree. I'm just not
Yeah.
in a position to guess. If
so just so you know, this is one of the oldest structures in the village, city. It was heavily involved with railroad activity and was built for that purpose. And it had a number of different parts and pieces to it. The newer pieces were added for the maple canning operation. It had a big chimney on it, which I think got taken down, right?
The base is still there. Can't
Base,
move
the
it.
base is still there, but the chimney, which probably did exceed 50 some feet,
Yeah,
was
and guy wires and everything, they're all gone now.
so what you have there is still, in many ways, historic, even though it's industrial historic. It still represents a interesting chunk, and I would argue that you're not tearing anything down lower if it.
I'm not suggesting that.
All
at
right, good. Next, what was the next item?
It's related to it's a little bit later, but I want to talk about the access drive because we're talking about this aisle width
Yeah.
and access drive. The code says if we have two-way traffic, we have 24 feet wide. And the existing the existing access drive that serves the property from Elm Street and Jackson Street is less than that. It's varies from 21 to 22 in general. I'm just bringing it up because it doesn't meet that code requirement. I'm not suggesting that it needs to change. It's existing and they're not proposing anything. But as we get down a little bit further here, one of the other items of concern is now that this is a residential use as opposed to some industrial type use, we have pedestrians that are going to want to come and go to this facility and to their homes. And the obvious destination for them is Elm Street and the sidewalk network that's on Elm Street. And there's really no way for them to drive or to walk down that road other than walking down that road, which is already less than what the code would require. So I bring that up to say, hey, the road is a little narrower. Perhaps we should suggest a sidewalk or some other provision for pedestrians to get down through there. I don't think the code requirement itself is in play here, the 24 feet, because it's existing and they're not proposing to change anything on the site. But I wanted to bring it all to your attention because to me, it's all part of this one group of comments about that existing site. Okay, we can zip through. So we talk about screening and landscaping. I'm going to bundle those all together into one. The applicant is not proposing to remove any landscaping that's there now, that's existing, or proposing any new. There is quite a bit of landscaping that's there now. I'm not suggesting that it's inadequate. I'm just bringing it to your attention that you guys should take a look at it and make sure you're comfortable with it as well, because they're not proposing anything new. We talked about the pedestrians already. So if we talk about sidewalk along the road, another comment that staff had is if we're not going to put a sidewalk on there, maybe some sort of a traffic calming measure to make sure that cars are going slowly on that narrow access drive. I don't know if it's speed bumps, something like that. The idea is to keep those pedestrians feeling safe, and we don't want people whizzing in and out by them. Bicycle racks, because the parking lot has more than 15 spaces, it requires a bicycle rack, and we're proposing that they provide a bike rack at least one of the entrances, either outside or it could be inside. The code doesn't really address interior ones, but staff believes that would be adequate to have one inside. There is a fairly good size kind of foyer in there, so lighting is another one. Because we're introducing residents to this property now, that means coming back from work when it's dark out in the winter, perhaps even leaving when it's dark out in the winter. in the morning. So we're thinking that lighting is appropriate for the parking lot, just for safety. They're proposing some building mounted lights that are not providing the minimum light levels in all of the parking area that the code would require. There's a lot of on the perimeter. We go from pretty bright at the building at those building mounted lights to almost no light at the perimeter. So it's not very uniform, which is the goal of what the code is trying to do. So I bring that to your attention. Let me zip ahead because there was a couple other lighting items that I should talk about that from the staff report. Okay, so there's a few that we have less than 0.2 foot candles. We have non-uniform levels throughout. There's a discrepancy. This is a very, very minor for the applicant. One of the sheets indicates that the lights have a correlated color temperature of 5,000 Kelvin, and then somewhere else I saw 4. 5 is no good in the code. So I just bring that to your attention and remove the conflict there. Mounting heights, it says on the lighting plan the building mounted lights are all 15 feet. When I look at the building elevations, I see varying mounting heights of the lights. I can't scale it because it says it's not the scale, but they're not the same, so they can't be all 15 feet. So we just need to clean that up, and of course, it's going to change the light levels as we move them up and down around that building. That fixture is okay as long as you mount it straight down. It has the ability to tilt,
Orientation.
cheat a little bit, and throw some light a little bit further. But as soon as you do that, it doesn't maintain its compliance with the code.
Yep.
I, in my other business, have run into this before where folks have cheated a little bit to get a little more light, and we ended up having to put them back. So it was the same fixture. So
Okay.
I'm a little sensitive to it.
Yep.
And I think that scale issue with the plan is going on in the lighting plan as well.
Okay.
As I can tell this. I think this scale issue is still lingering around.
Okay.
And so before final approval, that should get squared away so that the site plan that the DRB approves is to scale, is right. These distances are what they should be. These buildings are this big. The way that I tested that very quickly is just Google Earth, corner to corner building measurement from one over here to way over there. And I was off, I don't know, 10 feet, something like that. So
Okay.
there's something going on still.
Okay.
Okay, let me jump. I think we're almost done here. Lighting.
There is a survey of this property. If you don't have it, let me know.
Yeah. Okay.
It's old.
Yeah.
It's old, but there is one.
Okay, so all the commentary about the curb cut and the access drive, that's all kind of lumped in together. It's all existing. The code gives you guys the ability to say this is okay. That curb cut is okay. We're not going to require changes to it. It's at a funny angle. It's skewed to the road. It's not the width it should be. It doesn't have all the right radii, but it's existing.
How long has it been there?
Probably longer than me. So, the rest of this is all pretty much easy stuff for the applicant to just address. If there's going to be any air conditioning equipment, there's code requirements about how high it can stick up. We don't have that information yet to confirm that compliance issue. We bring it to your attention just so that you can tag it as part of the final approval.
Can I just ask you a quick question about that?
Of course.
So what's interesting is that we have an existing mini split air conditioning heat on the top of our roof, which is higher than what this code says is allowed.
Higher than 58 feet?
No,
That
one-
higher than 2
Third-
feet? Is that-
Oh,
it's up on the roof and it's like, one of those units.
Oh, it's 4.5, 5 feet high.
Yeah.
Sitting on the base.
I mean, it's like all the others that you see around town, right? Everybody who puts in these mini splits, I see those.
rooftop units are enormous in some places. 81 Main Street and the
Yeah.
doctor's office next door, they're 6 feet high.
Yeah, in Maple Mill, they have these
Yeah,
huge.
so I don't know what that part of the code is about. Are we really limiting the height of rooftop units without screening or something?
That's what it says in that one section that's in there. And so I just bring that up.
Yeah, no, I was.
I mean, if we need to get a variance or whatever, how do you go about that? Just let me know.
Yeah, we'll talk to staff about that because my own feeling is if it's existing, again, you're really only here for a fit up and a site plan. So if there's an existing something on the building and you don't make it worse, I
Right.
don't think it requires any action from our.
That's what I was going to say as you were talking. If it's there today, no problem.
Yeah.
But all of a sudden now we're going to introduce these 6 units. I could see more air conditioning units coming up or
Yeah.
some other
Right.
thing.
Which is
Now they fall under the purview of the code at that point.
Yeah.
right.
I was looking at 3 Main Street from my roof over there, and of course I can see it very well. And I was looking at those units over there, and they got to be like 6 feet tall on the top of that building. But what constitutes the top of the building? Because the edge of my north face of my building, the facade is like 3 feet higher than the actual horizontal roof level, but it's membraned all the way up over the top of it. So my question would be, what is the top of the roof? The top of that little facade extension, or
There are a number of ways to measure that, and
Right.
I'm not sure our code is sophisticated enough to tell us.
Yeah, so we just have to work it
So
out.
we would have to work it out.
Sure,
Yeah.
we're good with that.
Yeah, and I think this section in particular to the actual setbacks and what's going on in this setback itself, so I think, yeah, I'm not sure where this ventilation equipment is right now.
I mean,
It's all on the horizontal flat roof,
Yeah,
and it will be for the project as well.
we bring it up and we can talk about it at final, I think.
Yeah, right.
That's kind of the whole idea with the conceptual review.
Yep.
So similarly, we got satellite dish. I don't know.
They
if
won't.
you're
They
gonna
won't be
have any,
allowed. No, we don't.
no.
No satellite dishes
Just a code
allowed.
requirement.
Cable.
I think that the applicant actually has addressed this one already about the dumpsters, just to make sure that they're covered and plugged. And I think I saw a note that you had indicated that
Yep.
there would be. In terms of stormwater management and erosion controls, you're not proposing any changes outside. The only comment that staff would make is if there is exterior disturbance, we need to make sure that we have erosion controls. We have to dig something up, to trench in a new
Yeah.
utility service or something like that. That's where that would come into play. We talked about the landscaping, and that's pretty much it. That's the big items to me are the drive width and the parking, and the landscaping are 2 of the biggest items I think here. The rest of them I think are just compliance items that we've noted, and the applicant can deal with those as part of the next submittal.
Super.
Board members. Who has questions? Who has a comment?
Using historical nature of the building. It's in the Essex Junction history book. The whole story about the maple canning business.
I could have.
It's super cool. So
Yeah.
I was just
Oh, good.
so I think it's great. And my only comment, which I think is what has been talked about, is lighting. I think that is now that there's people living there. But I did drive over there because I've
Oh,
never been
good.
there.
Oh.
I lived here and I'd never been on that street.
Right.
And I thought it was a very cool place to do this. That's my personal.
I would say that most people haven't been on Elm Street, and even much smaller segment have never been on Jackson Street. It's fairly well hidden, which is actually good and bad.
Yeah.
It is industrial. Your 2 biggest neighbors are the railroad, which is all the way along one, because it curves, it's almost more than one side, and the city's DPW. So I would say my concern, and it's not really a concern, usually when we think about the whole landscaping and screening and buffering, you're trying to screen new development from residential areas that might be impacted. In this case, you're actually bringing residential, activity into an existing industrial. Well, you can't like self-impose a landscaping requirement. Essentially, you're putting the residential activity in a known industrial area. So I don't see how that goes that way. It's the code's kind of designed to have it go the other way. So I'm not really that concerned about the landscaping per se, but I am a little bit sensitive to the notion that residents will be there, and now you have people that hopefully will walk. Now there are a number of shortcuts through there which usually involve the railroad track, so I can't really say that as a legitimate shortcut.
Oh, yeah.
We see that all the time.
Yeah. I used to walk over there from my office, so I kind of know the options. But it will, once the Crescent connector goes in, and I'm not holding my breath, but we hear it's coming. It could get more activity, and it could become a more desirable place for all kinds of things, including residential. And so I would suggest that we're sensitive to the notion that it's connected well to the rest of the community. When we talk about traffic calming, we normally talk about ways to slow the cars down, which usually includes either making something narrower for some portion or, adding bumps and, to slow down the cars. So since we don't really have a lot of room to work with, and if we make it narrower, we're already starting from something that's essentially sub-regulation. So I might look to have staff be more engaged in a discussion with the applicants on how that really could happen, and sort of do what we can with what we have there, knowing that we have this competing interest between slowing down the cars, which, frankly, there are just not that many cars. I don't know how you guys are setting up the various uses inside the building, but the more industrial, larger trucks, bigger activity, I believe, is towards the back and would go in the other entrance.
Yeah,
Other entrance.
they go to 11 Jackson Street.
Yeah, so and you guys don't maybe know this, but there is a whole nother more industrial truck access to the rear part of this facility. So probably the type of driveway activity that happens in the front would be more what would be customary for residential, or maybe delivery trucks and things for, Amazon or post office or something. So I'll put that out there, but I think, for me, that's probably the biggest thing is okay, if it is residential and it's probably, if you can sleep through the trains, because my office was on the other side of the tracks. I know what happens. It's a nice place, and it's gonna get better, and I think we should recognize that. So the improvement should include some connectivity aspect to it, and that will probably extend to the lighting. The parking lot probably has to have a little bit more uniform lighting. Maybe they can do it with a pole or two. I think there were some in there. I don't know if they're on your property or if they were on the former Leo property to the north. But probably lighting is a thing.
We pay for one pole. I'm not sure where it is.
It's the lot, it's on the other side, the lease lot. We lease
Yeah,
a lot
okay.
from the city,
Yeah.
and there's a couple poles in there that we pay
Okay.
for.
Let's see. I don't really have an issue with the parking. I think it could probably go either way at this point. I think, maybe trying to get 24 feet, would you rather lose 2 feet of earth or lose some parking spaces? And it's pretty close. I'll say it's still, for me, it's still related to the overall aesthetic of the building. The resident, maybe somebody wants to have a flower bed out there, or there needs to be something that's maybe residential in character that's not so industrial.
There's that, just not to interrupt you, but so there's the building that we're talking about, and then there's an attached building, and then there's our offices, and then this whole area is all green. It's a
all
nice
green.
grass section.
Yeah.
In
And
addition
there's
to some grass areas that are in the front of the building, and there's some perennial grasses. I'm not sure what kind they are, but that they planted that are still there. So
The railroad tracks grow up pretty well, and then that hedge is enormous, and it's
Yep.
it's real nice.
yep.
Yeah.
So yeah,
So I
there is
was
some nice
thinking more
grass
of
there.
that northeast corner where some of these grassy areas are. I think, that part feels pretty industrial. Plus, as the pavement goes north, it's still a lot of pavement. So,
Yeah.
Yep.
just think about how to maybe soften that a little bit. And
Yeah.
I wouldn't say pave the whole thing over, but, maybe you can find a happy medium in there that
Okay.
makes us, well, I'm not really that worried about like if it was double loaded parking, you're more worried about it because then you might hit a car instead of rolling up on the grass a little bit. But, it's appropriate to call it to our attention, and
I think that one of the complicating matters amongst us is there's another building entrance over there.
Yeah.
And so that's not really there now. It's you guys, but you guys get out and get in your car. And now we got potential residents coming out of that corner, walking that way to get to their car parked along the hedge into backing cars. That's kind of where we're headed. I think if everybody was approaching from the other direction, things might be a little bit different.
I mean, yeah.
It's not,
it's
I'm not saying
there's a lot going on there.
Yeah.
it's a change in it's going to drastically change kind of the look and feel of this building now that you introduce residential to it. I think it's a great place for it, but it's going to change that a little bit. It was made for commercial and industrial.
Okay.
Let's see, the lighting one we talked about kind of already, and the roof, the rest of the compliance issues I don't think are really an issue. So how about this side of the table? What do you guys have to say about this?
I'm curious about the concept that you raised around pedestrian traffic coming out of the building, potential for sidewalk or alternate path for folks, especially if we're talking about the connector that might increase.
I think the only sidewalk in the whole entire, like if I think of that Elm Street, Camp Street neighborhood is on the other side of the street. And when you go down Camp Street, the Jackson Street condominiums at the end, Risley Court, nobody has sidewalks. So even the condo complex at the end, which is I think 30 condo units, they don't have sidewalks. And that's
They don't
the-
have connectors to the.
they don't have
to
a
the
connect,
street.
right, that in their driveway, there's no sidewalk, because the sidewalk is like on the left, it's on the interior.
Yeah, it'd be on the opposite
So,
corner.
you'd have a sidewalk and then it would end, and then you'd have to cross the road to go to the sidewalk. So it's a little bit, I think because the area is so old, it's got some interesting, it's got some old features.
Yeah.
See what you're saying?
Yeah, and you can't see it there, but Adam over there, he has like a beautiful garden in the front of his property with sunflowers and
Top
bees
center of the
and
screen,
yeah,
beehives and whatnot. To add to what you're saying, and going back into the lighting, I kind of looked at the zeros along the borderline. That would be the top left corner of the screen. There's a little triangular shaped section of grass. That is our line. That the top line would be, the grass is ours.
yeah, okay,
And, the lighting kind of dies out along that edge, probably 5-6 feet short of that edge of the pavement. And it was just because there's a neighbor right there who actually lives there. It's not like a commercial building that's vacant throughout the evening and then they come to work in the morning.
there's two.
Adam lives there, and then the little white house at the top. And so we're trying to, I think the lighting people thought maybe we'll try to go the direction of kill it short of the line so that there's no trespass issues. The color temperature issue is they are selectable light fixtures, I understand. And I think that was just a little slip of the thumb on the typewriter there. But, but the foot candle levels, I understand it completely. There's a uniformity factor that needs to be met from highest out, foot candle level to lowest. And so I will work on getting that resolved. And there's plenty of electricity back there. It all goes overhead. So probably the whole city's electricity goes right across my parking lot. So we should have no problem finding some way to solve a lighting issue.
The only other thing that I hesitate to bring up, but I just will, is that we have had problems with the general community population using our driveway and Adams property to go to the railroad tracks and to cross over, and kids and just some troublemaking, activities. And so we all of a sudden put a sidewalk there. Does that then increase that traffic coming onto our private property? I want people to be able to walk. There's a lot of dog walking in that area, and I like that whole feel of that area. And so
It becomes less private when you put apartments in, though. I mean, we still own it, but it's
yeah,
people live there.
I just know Adam has had some,
Yeah, that's all kind of died down
okay.
ever since Adam got a face shot of one of the kids and then went to
Okay.
the school and said, "Do you know this kid?" And they said, "Oh yeah, that's Elijah." So the next time the kid came through, they said, "Hey Elijah, how you doing?" And the trouble stopped.
We don't know that his name was Elijah. That's
No,
just-
we don't know if
you're-
his name was Elijah. I
that's-
just made that up.
We just
I'm
made
saying.
that up. I just,
But
Good.
Adam because he lives there, was very helpful. He was watching stuff.
Having people there in an apartment will end that.
Yes,
okay,
Yeah.
that's what I was thinking, because there's
Yeah.
people there at night, right?
Yeah. more eyes,
Yeah, more, yeah.
But a little bit of lighting is gonna help that.
and the lighting will
Yeah.
help. Yeah.
That's true.
Yeah.
Maybe one of those.
We'll go back to the
motion
lighting
sensors then.
people and see what we can do.
Yeah, I will, just for the rest of the board there, that little triangle of grass is new from the last owner. It wasn't there before. That was a auto body shop, and so that was another commercial use at the time. Now that it's got a residence in it, it probably changes the character a little bit, and they probably didn't want all the. I mean, it was one big chunk of pavement all the way across there, and it was really hard to figure out who had what. It had cones and rope and some other stuff set up, and
Yeah.
wasn't really ideal either. So I'm actually happy to see that there's more definition to the property areas there, but
Yeah.
it may also give you an opportunity to do something about the lighting, and hopefully it can be done so that it doesn't bother the other neighbors there.
So I will say from a staff perspective, in terms of lighting, I see the highest importance is to have areas where you have a lot of car backing up traffic, as they just because cars don't have headlights in the back, and we will have people of all ages potentially walking there.
Thanks.
All right. So
Okay.
any other items that we need to comment on for this? Is there any, Maggie, do you have more? Been somewhat quiet.
No, I like the idea, kind of adding on what you were saying of turning it into residential area. I feel like often when we're bringing up suggestions or things we'd like to see, I'm not sure if it's not as relevant given this is an existing space, but it is kind of like spaces to gather or like setting something up outside so people have that. And I haven't heard anything about that. So I'm just curious if that's kind of more because this is, not new landscaping coming in. It is what it is. But that would be my only.
Yeah, that like when we have sort of new residential developments, we've tended to ask them for, okay, so where do they barbecue and
Right, that was the
what's
main thing
done?
that
Is
I-
there a jungle gym or a playground or something? What happens,
Triangle.
right? But
I was
so-
like, we can put it, yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
This one is a little tricky with the railroad. I mean, that building, you can't quite tell, but the right of way for the railroad follows the arc of the railroad, but the building encroaches on it. It's that close. And it's just the way it is. It's not going anywhere, but they're right on the railroad property line there.
There's no
On that
setback.
side, so they can't really do stuff over there, and they do have the beautiful green space kind of near where their office is and that big hedge, but those are all things to consider. So
Yeah.
as you guys bring in a new tenant type, I think there's a little burden on you to show what else comes with that.
Gotcha.
And so we don't really care what's going on in your apartments. That's up to you. But outside that, we get to talk about that. So we're gonna make suggestions and we're gonna tell you to go read the land development code for what we're looking for, because we've tried to put some things in there. And we're not saying you have to do everything that we list, but you might want to make an effort to think about those couple of things, like the lighting, the safety, the pedestrians walking into the middle of the, I just gotta call it the village, right? I mean, the city. But you know, how do they get there safely? And you know, it works for you too. You might want to walk in and get a bagel or something. Well, are you going down the tracks, or are you going some other way, or maybe you're walking over to the park to take a swim at noon or something when it's nice out in the summer. I don't know, but you've got a little bit of a you know, maybe think about what you can offer for the residential units. And there are only 6. I just want to point that out. There's only talking about 6. It's not the whole building.
The only thing that I thought that I was pretty firm on was having an outdoor faucet so that people could wash their dogs off before they brought them into the property, because we have wood floors. So I think that's one of my hopes. Do a little dog wash, just a little,
Yeah.
you know, because dogs,
Well,
they get muddy. And so
That's, you know, the bike rack thing is big. You know, people, especially in sort of loft style apartments, they're going to be interested in, you know, I don't know if you guys know, but there is a trail that leads from Maple Street Park and it follows the railroad tracks. And I don't know where it goes, but there is a network of trails, including the short track, pump tracks that they put in.
Yeah.
But there's a lot of biking and a lot of recreational activity that happens just down the tracks away, and it's still, you know, something for you to think about on how you could maybe tie into that.
A lot happens on those tracks,
Yeah.
I don't want to know.
a lot.
And there is a doggy
Yeah.
daycare right behind our building. So
Not anymore.
oh, not
They're
anymore.
gone.
Oh, okay.
That's getting bulldozed. So
It's
Oh,
well,
okay, sorry.
there when the Crescent Connector goes in, there'll be a way to get across the tracks without sort of just walking across the tracks. You'll actually have a road there.
Oh,
So that's part of the Crescent Connector, and when that goes in, this neighborhood, let's say,
Oh, wow.
is going to be much closer to Pearl Street and Park Street than it is now,
and easier to access.
and easier to access.
Ah, okay, that's
So
great.
so don't you might want to stop in and talk to the village city staff about you know, what that all looks like in the future, because it's going to be a game changer for that neighborhood. Yeah.
okay,
So, I guess we could have a motion to, I'm going to suggest a motion to approve the conceptual plan with consideration for the requirements that are in the LDC that have been pointed out by the city engineer, and with the ongoing consideration for the other items that we've talked about, including safety, lighting, and pedestrian connection. Does that work for people? Anybody want to add something? Can we have a second to that? Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye. Aye. Motion carries unanimously. Thank you very much.
thank you, everybody.
you.
Thank you very much.
This is what happens when your wife is out of town and she comes home right before your meeting. You leave without exactly what you thought you had to go with. All right, so that's public hearing. All right. Good evening, Brett. We have, for the next public hearing, another conceptual site plan to remove an existing residential or several residential buildings and construct a new building with 34 studio apartments with parking at 227 to 229 Pearl Street in the MF/MU1 district by 227 Pearl Street LLC. And I see we have two representatives with us. would you like to introduce yourselves? And I think, Brett, maybe you missed the swearing in last time, so do you mind if I read that again?
Most certainly. Go ahead.
Okay, so I hereby swear that the evidence I give in the cause under consideration shall be the whole truth and nothing but the truth under the pains and penalties of perjury.
I do.
Thank you. All right, introduce yourselves and we'll love to have you tell us about your project.
My name's Brett Grabowski. I am actually 227 Pearl Street LLC.
I'm Greg Dixon, the project engineer for Krebs and Lansing, or with Krebs and Lansing. I think you did a pretty good job of explaining what we're trying to do here. 227 has right now 4 buildings on it. 3 are used as residential, and then I believe the last one's just a garage or barn or something like that. What we're looking to do is take those buildings down and put up one single building with 34 studio apartments. And with that, we have our site plan, which has not only the building on it, but also sort of how we're going to lay out the parking and how this project will fit into this parcel. I don't know if we wanted to bring that up so everybody could take a look at it.
Yep. Well, that's
But we feel this building fits into the general theme of this area, considering some of the larger buildings right next to it. As mentioned, kind of in the last project, residential use is a need of this area, so we are trying to sort of fill that need with a very specific studio apartment. And yeah, so be happy to chat more about all the staff comments and anything else that the board wanted to discuss. So this is the existing conditions plan. We did a on-the-ground survey in the fall of 2022, as well as trying to identify as best we could a lot of the utilities within the Pearl Street right away, which is a little bit messy, but we're still working those out. And then if you wanted to jump to the next plan, you can.
So just while you're right on that one, do you have 3 structures that are there now, including one that's kind of drifting into the setback for the stream there?
It's
the
actually-
buffer?
Yeah, that back house is existing.
Yeah.
It's there.
Right.
So yeah, and it's not falling in, but it's obviously
Yeah. So you're going to clean that up for us so we don't have to worry about it.
yeah. I mean, we've actually we've actually already. So the topo that's on the plan, or the plan with the proposed new building footprint, is the topo on that is the actual topo. We've actually delineated the brook already, so that the setback is what the setback, it's a 50-foot setback from the wetlands that was delineated in the fall.
Yeah.
So we've already
And the
done that.
monitoring well that was listed there, what was that about? They're just trying to keep track of.
So that was a monitoring well. Those were, we did some test pits, some infiltration testing, and some test pits to do some preliminary work with stormwater.
Okay.
So we wanted to get that done before the ground froze. So we identified that stuff early and pretty much about the same time that we did the topography as well. Our intent is to move that house. This project will have to go through Active 50, and therefore will be reviewed by A&R. I think it'll be a conversation that we'll have to have with the wetlands department. I think removing a structure within the buffer will be a pretty easy conversation to have with the wetlands department, but it is something that we will have to discuss.
They still consider that a disturbance, even though it's a good disturbance.
Unfortunately,
Yeah.
yes, but I do believe the threshold for meeting the EPA Clean Water Acts, if you're taking it out of it and revegetating it, you don't really have to prove a lot of the big issues that would be if we were going the opposite way.
Yep. Awesome. All right. Anybody else have questions on the existing site plan?
Yeah, there were some comments about staff, because I mean, there's some reference in there as approximate property lines. The property has been surveyed. We know where the pins are, and we've done the necessary research, and so we do know that the meets and bounds are correct.
There were a number of disclaimers on the drawing, so maybe we weren't quite sure if that's
Yeah, I think I put it is no way a boundary survey because I didn't do the boundary survey, but we
Yeah.
did get the boundary survey from Hamlin Engineering.
Okay.
So they gave us the lines.
Oh, actually, Larry Burke did it.
Oh, Larry
Yeah,
Burke.
Larry Burke actually went and did the boundary work.
So is the normal thing going forward to say that the little note on the drawings that says these this was taken from a survey done by so and so we can all be fairly comfortable that
They hadn't produced it yet, so that's why I didn't
Ah,
know yet.
okay.
But now they have
Got it.
produced it and given it to me. So
No
when we come
worries.
in on the next one, it will say something that by plan based by Larry Burke dated blank. And so,
no.
but they did give me all their line work, and we located the same pins that they found when we did our survey work. So we feel pretty confident that we're showing pretty much the exact same thing that they have.
And Jeff, as far as A&R and all the stuff that might happen with Army Corps and fooling around with disturbing the inside the 50-foot buffer, they're going to take care of all that, right? We don't have to
They
really.
will, and I think other than taking that out, I don't think you're doing anything in there.
We are not
You're
proposing.
making it better in this case.
All
I
right.
don't know what you're doing for stormwater, and I could see maybe stormwater in there, but I think it's important to note just up front that this is a conceptual plan that you guys submitted. There's a lot of comments here. There's a lot of shots over the bow, if you will, of here's the things we're looking for the next time.
Yep.
That's basically what a lot of these comments are. There's a lot of them, but they're just, I'm confident you guys are going to meet those. We're just bringing them up. We run it through the code. Here's what we're looking for. Should make the next submission go.
Yeah, we have a lot of the comments you made were expected, obviously, and we actually have all the information teed up to basically put on plans and kind of move forward with this. So a lot of the work has already been done on the comments that you've made, but so they obviously weren't expected.
I just wanted to bring that up because there's a lot of them, and there's a lot of them I expect that you would expect them.
All right. Regina, I'm not sure that those engineer comments were in our packet either. So I wrote Terry and asked for the Maple Mill set, but I neglected to ask for these, but I don't think we had them either. So
The engineering comments are summarized in the staff report. But
In the
yes,
staff
I think
report.
we've,
okay.
we'll
All right. So just walk us through them so we don't miss them because they may be
course.
a little bit new for some of us.
I can do the same thing. I'll zip through very quickly. There's again a lot of them. I'm just gonna say I know you'll meet them. There's just a couple that I think are worth flagging. The property line, we've already dealt with that one. When you tell me property lines are on a tax map, it just raises a flag to me. And then when I see you on the setback,
Yep.
we don't want to be in an unfortunate spot where the building gets built in the wrong spot, and then we got to deal with it. Parking.
And while you're doing this, can we go to the
Yes.
proposed plan, Chris?
Parking requirements. So the land development code requires a total of 71 parking spaces for the proposed building. The applicant's requesting a waiver to allow 49 parking spaces. The comment that the staff made is you should provide some information, some supporting information in support of that waiver request based on a similar type of use. That information has since come in. Staff has looked at it and finds it acceptable. That adequately shows support for the parking waiver.
The numbers are based off of 11 Park.
Yeah, I read the letter too. I thought it was great, and that's exactly the kind of information that is helpful to have for any of us to be trying to make a decision like that. But in general, we would like to make sure that we're not just paving the world so we can say we have all this parking. It's I think we've done that already. We don't need to do it anymore. So I appreciate that. It makes a big difference. Knowing that these are all studio apartments, and I know Greg touched on that first. You might get some pushback from the DRB a little bit because we want to know how come you're not taking care of 1, 2, 3 bedroom type units. But I'm guessing the answer is that because you can't rent those and you get all the energy is in renting the studios or the 1 bedrooms. So maybe you can talk about that, but we're not quite there yet. Yeah.
Okay, so obviously building elevations will be coming. So another request that the applicant is making is for a waiver is to reduce that aisle width that we've been talking about in the previous application from in the parking area of 24 feet between the the 90-degree parallel spaces, as well as the access drive. They're requesting 22 feet instead of 24. We have looked at that and feel that it's a code compliance issue. The code says 24. The land development code says 24. It's a compliance issue if you do something less. And in this case, we just don't see any other reason. There's no limiting factor there to support that. And so staff does not support that approval of that request. I know that they have mentioned in there that they are trying to minimize impervious area, which is in general a good thing. I'm not going to say that that's not. Based on, I just kind of ran some numbers, and I get about 640 square feet more if we provide that code compliance issue and make it 24. So that's staff's opinion. We throw it back out to the DRB for your consideration. Okay, let's see. I'm going to skip a lot of these drainage things. I actually, drainage I do want to touch on because there was some question as to whether or not this project needed a state permit, state stormwater permit, which also then triggers some land development code, some local stormwater requirements. And it turns out that it's very likely that this project is not going to require a state stormwater permit, whether or not you guys approve the waiver request to reduce the oil width or not. There was some question in my mind as to whether or not we kicked over that threshold, but I don't think it's going to matter. So I just wanted to bring that up, that the land development code, while you don't need a stormwater permit, the land development code wants you to try to maintain pre-development hydrology as much as you can. So just because you don't need a state stormwater permit doesn't mean nothing.
What's
That's
the
all
limit
I
now?
wanted to say
It's less than an acre, right? Is it? It's
Well, it's.
they're still fighting with
I
that.
understood. No,
So
I
it's,
thought I understood it, but it's.
We are in a very interesting
Let Greg-
scenario for this project. The limit is a half an acre of new or a half an acre of redevelopment. We are in a process where we're doing a quarter acre of redevelopment and a quarter acre of new, which does not require a permit, even though it tallies up to more than half an acre. It's
Learn something new every day.
It's a very, I've passed it with a bunch of the guys over there at State Stormwater. We do fully intend to do as much as we can. As I mentioned, we already have done infiltration testing, as well as a test pit to about a depth of, I think, 6 or 7 feet. We did not find any water, but that's to be expected with the slope that's right next to it. And the soils were pretty good for infiltration. So our intent, and another reason why we're trying to reduce that width, is to provide the most room we can kind of on that, on the edge of the property between that next building, to have that area to infiltrate as much as possible. I do think we could probably use the front yard for that a little bit too, and kind of try to pool stuff towards the front of the building without actually going onto the road. With the infiltration testing that we found out there, I do not expect this to actually hold water. I think it would be one of those things where you see what you normally see, a storm event. It would fill up a little bit and then infiltrate pretty quickly. I do think we, as part of reaching out to the wetlands department, we might need to have some sort of drain for the rooftop, as well as the foundation drain of the building. That might have to go towards Sunderland Brook. Stormwater is allowable in wetland and buffer areas, and it's just a conversation that I need to have with them, just because I think the depth of both of those two things is probably going to exceed the ability to bring it back up to the surface. But it's something that I'm looking at right now. But we do fully intend to have quite a bit of stormwater. There's really no other place to put it back here. So we're going to kind of put it in a shallow grassline swale on what is showing the left side of this site plan, as well as another shallow grassline swale kind of at the top of the bank in the rear of the property.
Yeah, and they did not provide you, and this is kind of further down, I might be jumping ahead, but what we did not provide you is any rough sketches of the building itself, but we do anticipate it to be 4 stories, flat roof. You know, there was some discussions with the architects, Greg Rabbit, who's basically going to be doing the design. and about a pitched roof. And I think if we go 4 stories and then go pitch, I think the building's gonna, the mass is gonna get really big, I think. And it might really be much bigger. I mean, obviously Gabe's, you know, the handy building is right next door. That's 3 stories with a large pitch. So if we go flat and 4 stories, we're going to be roughly the same size as that building next door. If we go, even though we would meet the height requirements in the zone at like 50, it's like 55 feet or 56 feet, we would certainly be underneath that, but I still think the mass of the building would start to get pretty big if we go with a pitch.
Does that impact your stormwater too, if you can't sort of capture it on the roof and pipe it where you want it?
That's what we're looking
Yeah.
at. So we had roof discussions kind of early this week. I also just had a baby, so I'm coming back. Or my wife just had a baby, so I'm coming
No,
back.
you too. It's a joint effort.
So I'm just getting back in the swing of things, and Brett and us and the architect were chatting about it earlier this week, and so it will definitely affect it. As I mentioned, the foundation drains, because we do intend to put a basement in this building as well. So the foundation drains are going to be, as you would expect, almost 8 feet deeper than the existing ground, and we have to somehow drain that somewhere. And I think it is an allowable use to put stormwater towards a wetland, as long as it's treated. And in this case, it would be groundwater and rooftop runoff, which you don't need to treat those 2 things. So it would be.
And we do propose, I mean, all these units are going to have mini splits. So that's the flat roof too. That's where we're.
I got nothing against flat roofs. You know?
Yeah. No,
Have
well,
me bother.
got a couple of them next door here, so they turned out okay. So.
But again, to Jeff's point, I mean, there's a lot of stuff we're still working on, and we plan to have all that addressed in the next submission.
That's great. I just wanted to get it out there that just because state stormwater doesn't come in doesn't mean you're off the hook completely.
Yeah,
Yep.
first off.
You know that. I'm just throwing that out there. You are showing some accessible parking spaces. There's no grading on the plan, so I can't confirm that the route, it looked like there must be another door kind of around the corner. Just to make sure that route is accessible as well, all the way to the door.
Looks like there's one in the back because it's going to line up with the.
I think we've
accessible
Yeah, there is right now the plans that we have. There's going to be an entrance to the front end all the way to the back.
Yeah, I think we've even already moved the entrances.
Yeah.
So it's all good. We talked about the property lines, screening, buffering, landscaping. None of that's at this level, but it is something that you guys will want to look at, I'm sure. Bicycle access with the number of spaces in there. Staff is recommending that you put bike racks actually at the front and the back. And they could be inside as well.
We plan on, so with the basement, all the units are going to have storage facilities in the basement. So, I mean, yes, we can certainly provide bike racks at one of the entrances, but everybody is going to have storage, private storage, basically in the basement. Essentially, that's your inside bike rack or bike storage. I would,
I think when we come with the next plan, we can just certify that a bike could fit.
Yeah, that's fine. I mean, it's given its location, I could see biking as a mode of transportation.
Oh, yeah,
here.
certainly.
It's perfect for it.
Yep.
So again, lighting in the parking.
Sorry, Jeff, can I just ask? There will be an elevator, I presume, and will the elevator go down to the basement?
Has to.
Okay.
So no lighting was shown. That'll be coming. You've kind of heard a little bit about lighting tonight, so you know what we're looking for there. I highlighted the waiver sections and the sections of the code that you guys will want to pay attention to in granting any waivers for the parking spaces and that parking width if you choose to. The curb cut and access to the public street, again, that one's proposed at 22 feet wide, where it exits and enters off of Pearl Street. Staff doesn't support 22 feet there. We'd love to see 24. And so maybe there's a happy medium. There's not to say that you can't approve one and not the other. Maybe it's 22 in the parking lot and 24 at the entrance. I don't know. But I'll throw it out there that I think that you have the ability to do one or the other or both or neither. So all of this other stuff about roof overhangs and equipment up on the roof, I won't go through all that. Satellite dishes, it's just a code compliance issue. The dumpsters, you show a dumpster area, there needs to be a little bit more detail in there. we talked about erosion. We talked about stormwater. We didn't talk about erosion prevention and sediment control. You'll need to have a plan for that, especially if you're going down over the bank with a discharge pipe.
Yep.
We'll be interested in seeing that slope stabilized. There'll be, I'm assuming there'll be details of the building design and architecture and finishes as part of the next submission for you guys, as well as a landscaping plan. And that is pretty much it, I believe. A lot of these are shots over the bow, so to speak, for where we'll be looking for in the future. I do have a couple of highlights from the staff, from the city engineer comments that I would like to just bring to your attention. So the sidewalk out front along Pearl Street, there's a lot of utility crossings that are going to disturb little pieces of that sidewalk at a time. We're going to put in a water service, and then 10 feet later, we're going to put in a sewer service, and we're going to take out a water service. And by the time we get done all that, there's all these little chopped up pieces of that sidewalk. We don't want to see this one fixed and this one
The
fixed.
whole
and
thing
this
will get
one fixed.
replaced. It's in tough shape to begin with.
That's what I was thinking. Let's do it all at once. Let's
We're-
pick a start and an end and replace the sidewalk in between there.
We're also it slightly shifts the access
Yes.
and there's also another egress onto the property. So
Yeah, that
I
you're
think we're
closing. We're
going
closing.
to have to fix all of that.
Just want to make sure. I've seen it where we've done piecemeal, or at least tried to do piecemeal. I think it's much better if we pick a start, pick an end, and go for it.
I think the same thing would have to go with the curbing as well.
Yes. All of that would be, let's just do continuous replacement for all those disturbances.
And then applicant is trying to do.
Yes, they have to fix what they've disturbed. And that's what we're saying is we're asking them as part of the project, those little sections in between, that we get those
Isn't there a
replaced.
bus pickup there?
I don't know where the exact bus stops are. I mean,
It's down there.
yeah,
It might be down.
I think it's down a little bit further.
Yeah, I think.
it's not far from,
It isn't very
I mean, that's kind of that's why we're building here, right? So it's on the bus route, et cetera. So we actually have over here, just to bring up the bus thing in 11 Park, we actually have some units with no cars. And they're actually carpooling and busing it into, we have some traveling nurses that don't have cars, and they're busing it into the University Health Center because they're either busing in from here or parking out on Pine Street and getting bussed in from Pine Street. So,
Yeah, so their two options are Pine Street or Fanny Allen, and
or from home.
Yeah,
So they choose home. So, yeah.
I don't know if you have any authority on I think there's no bike lane in that section of Pearl Street.
Probably
The
not.
bike lane ends. I mean, that's another thing. If you're having studio apartments, that's a lot of my husband bikes to the hospital.
I don't think we have room in there.
That bikers are on the sidewalk, or I don't allow him to ride his bike on 15. So I mean, that bike lane ends that portion. So that would be something. I don't know who can make that happen, but that would be nice.
State of
there is a plan, isn't there, Regina, for a center lane or some kind of
Yeah.
multi-purpose?
There just seems to be now a lot of people living.
They just rebuilt it for the fort.
Yep.
So right, there's this multi-use path that is being put in.
Oh, that's
that
right.
Exists now.
That goes.
This section of Pearl has a scoping study for reconfiguration of the road. There's currently no timeline for when it will be implemented.
Yeah, and there's a little bit of, there's no conclusion to that scoping study, so it needs to be sort of brought back around. But there is a strategy and a plan. It just needs to be figured out. So it's not soon, sadly.
But it has been thought.
Well, the other part happened by the fort, which was like amazing.
Yeah.
I think.
But how long did that take?
And I think as the applicants, we'd love to see it, but I don't think we could. We
And
can't do it.
once you're by the fort, it was
Sorry,
less pressure anyway. Because anyone that's tried to bike that knows the rigors of not wanting to be on 15 directly,
Exactly.
but trying to make it through there. So, no, I think generally speaking, you're absolutely right. It's an ideal place to continue the large scale housing. We've said it time and again that putting it on, major transportation routes is ideal. And this is one of them. And so it's a pretty helpful continuation of the big picture regional planning to get denser housing in that location. So we're starting off on the right foot there. Do you have more comments?
I think I have two more. Just to alert you guys that as part of that final submission, we will be looking for existing as well as proposed sewer and water demands. I'm assuming that you are going to need additional allocations, so you'll need to work through that. And the last one I'll highlight is to just alert you, Greg, to the land development code details. For any work that's inside the right of way, you need to follow the land development code details. It happens all the time where we get a sidewalk detail that's different than what's in the land development code. On your site, you can do whatever you want. Outside in the city's right of way, it needs to comply with those. So it's really easy to just use those. Because
Copy and paste.
or redraw them, whatever, but you need to use those details inside the city right away. It's a comment that comes up a lot, so I just highlight it to you.
Yep.
It'll save a little bit of work. And that was that. Done all set, unless you guys have other questions for me or the applicant?
I don't know that, the only one I have that is maybe for you, because you've already started, is the whole width of the aisle. And I can see a nice flare to the curb cut, so it seems nice there, and I mean, if it's 22 feet all the way down through there, I mean, I'll just say that the only thing that, cars are both getting smaller and bigger at the same time. Like, the people that have trucks have extended trucks with tow hitch and every other thing you can possibly add onto it to make it bigger. And the people who have small cars, they're getting, like, you think you can just pick them up and put them in your pocket and take off with them. So it's hard to know how to handle this one. I feel like our particular area is probably more in the normal size car than it is in the truck type of car. Those trucks tend to be, maybe in somewhere that's sort of less dense. But I don't know. So I'm conflicted about that. I know when you have a larger vehicle, it makes it difficult for everybody. But at the same token, I'm not really anticipating, like a 24 feet seems like, it feels like we should be able to find some compromise on here. We've got a fairly good sized parking lot. There may be some areas that are reserved, and then maybe we could think about parking. So instead of reserving spots for small cars, maybe we reserve spots for big cars and flip that whole thing around so that some of the spaces are large and you make the people with large cars park there. And then all the rest of the spots can be kind of, smaller. So something to think about. I, for one, am flexible. I might be tempted to keep the entry aisle at 24 feet and say, it's a big street. It is only one way. Where you enter, you're only allowed to go one direction. But I would be maybe looking for engineering input on how all that works. And that can come from Krebs' side, or it can come from the city side. But I don't know that I'm an expert on turning radius and stacking and all the things that happen when you have people that are trying to get to work and it's too late to ride the bike, so they had to jump in the car. And now there's a lot going on there on that particular piece of road. So I'd be looking for additional input as we move forward, but I encourage everybody to be flexible about how not to provide the biggest parking lot we think we might have to have.
Let me tell you one of the things that did come out of all the staff discussions, because we talked about it. I said we're all trying to be responsible with minimizing impervious area and all that good stuff. And I realize that people hopefully won't have cars in this spot. But what it came down to for us is, in the end, it was code compliance. The code says 24. How come it says 24? Because it does. That's what we hold everybody to. And so that's why the comment ended up in there is we could not find some other thing that would,
But some of us like
Help
to
us
challenge
justify
the code.
and that's fine.
That's just how it works.
This is what we do.
You know, we now have a review process that's almost 5 weeks long, just cause. And so you get these tiny little projects that can't get on the docket until all this time has gone by, even though, you know, it should have been, and we don't understand that either. So, I'll just say that, I understand the code is there to protect everybody's best interest and to provide for the safety and health and welfare of the residents, but there could be times when you know, I mean, shared parking does the same thing, it just does it differently. You know, I would say trying to take some portion of this parking lot and make sure that it works for every possible permutation, but not every space works for every possible car, is still a good way to attack this. So I just still encourage some form of flexibility and showing that you can figure it all out and balance it against, you know, that being said, I'll also say that the number of parking spaces that we're showing, I like the reasoning behind that. If you haven't read the engineering letter that said, here's what we have somewhere else, here's, right? So that was good. I think those numbers make sense. I don't know if we could even take some more cars off, but that's again up to the applicants. You know, you could maybe take a couple spots off the length of the thing and end up with a wider aisle somewhere. But anyway, there's a lot of ways to do it. I'm not sure that we're all happy with it just yet, but since it's only conceptual planning, I think we just tell you where we feel the pinch and we ask you to keep working on it. And I'll say that there's some pushback from the city staff on this is what the code says, this is what we want, and so we got to keep working our way through that one. I don't know how you guys feel, but you want to just, anyone else with a comment on parking?
I'm just really curious why in all this no one has said 23 feet. It's just been like, what's in the middle? What are we gonna do? How do we fix this? Where do we find the common ground? And what's in between 24 and
There was a
23?
compromise mentioned, that was kind of
It
obvious.
used to be 25.
I was just curious.
Quite a
But, you know,
ways ago.
I hate to say this, but, you know, everywhere else in the world, you know, we're talking about,
I've seen 20.
but you talk about, you know, I understand in regards to the code and land development code, it's at 24 feet, but necessarily the land development code isn't always right and doesn't always work in the best interest of what the goals of the municipality are, the common goals of everybody else. So that's, you know, in my mind, I viewed land development code as more of a guideline than as a hard rule. That's why DRBs are set up so that you guys have the authority to basically waive. I mean, in the old days, if you wanted to waive the regulations, you had to go to the zoning, you had to go all these extra steps, right? You had to go to the zoning board of adjustments and you had to, you know, it just took a lot of extra time. And so the permitting process has been streamlined, thankfully, where you know, boards like yourselves are given the right to basically make determinations on the fly that are basically fit the applicant or fit the site specifically and what, you know, what this project is trying to achieve or what a given project is trying to achieve. So, you know, I think in this area with close proximity to the brook and everything else here, I think, you know, you might consider 2 extra feet not a big deal. But, you know, in the previous application, you guys talked about how important it was that they replaced a piece of asphalt with some grass. And it wasn't a lot of grass, but you guys even made the comment that, well, yeah, it made a difference, right? So same thing here. I mean, yes, square footage wise, it's really not a lot, but if it adds for an area that we can treat the stormwater or adds the area that additional grass can be planted, then I think it's worth it to take the advantage. The social engineering comment that I was about to make is everywhere else in the world is that, yeah, if we're trying to get people to drive smaller cars, then don't make the highway so big, right? Or you know, there's ways that, you know, you're almost, you know, I hate to say this, but the engineering limits choices, right? And I don't necessarily say that's right or wrong, but it's certainly something that society has done to say, hey, we make parking lots smaller. There's a lot of advantage to that, and
Maybe
Remember,
maybe
yeah.
driving a full size pickup truck with 4 doors isn't the best use of resources.
we also
We have a state mandate to reach certain energy goals by 2030. And it's not going to happen if we keep making our cars bigger. So there's all kinds of reasons why trying to drive smaller cars should be promoted. I don't know that the city is quite caught up to that in the land development code yet, but it's still worth remembering. I don't know what is well, we don't have to answer it now, but the land development code in some places allows for a certain percentage of compact cars only. And I'm just saying, hey, that's given a bonus somehow to the compact cars, but it's not penalizing the big cars. And there's a possibility that we could do a little of both there and still provide for them. So
I also think it is a residential apartment building that somebody's going to go and look at that apartment and say, I want to live here because of X, Y, Z. If they have a monster truck, that could be part of their consideration to not live there.
here's another one for you, Brent. Some apartment buildings sell the parking spaces separately from the apartments. And there's a possibility that says if you need a parking space and a half from what everybody else has, you have to pay for it. You want there's a guy in my parking lot that insists on parking his truck in 2 spots.
Yeah.
This is not a special looking truck, but it's taking up 2 spots and it's driving me nuts. Like I've seen people do that when they had some kind of fancy car, they didn't want to get a scratch on it, but come on, like, does he pay for 2 parking spaces?
And then the only other thing I was going to mention is kind of taking a more macro approach to the width of the entire parking and aisle space in general. It's still 58 feet, which in other municipalities, whether you have an 18-foot stall or a 20-foot stall or a 20-foot wide, 58 is used in other municipalities as a total width for back-to-back parking. 60 is also. So I'm not saying that it's out of character with other municipalities, but there is that parking width of 22 feet, but not every car is 18 feet long. And so it's something to, I think looking at the entire width is something to think about as well, which is still 58 feet compared to 60.
Anyway, I think there's a room for assigning spaces based on vehicle size and then tailoring your parking lot to allow for that. And maybe that gets you where you want to
Yeah. Suggestion heard.
go. Anything else on parking? Lighting and so forth. It's not quite there yet. I'm looking at this. There are existing fences down both sides of the. I guess that kind of. I don't know what your landscaping plan is going to look like, but it's
existing fences that are not the
right. You don't have a choice.
Yeah.
We did have a project come through a while ago that had like 2-foot shrubs planted up against the 6-foot fence, and everybody kind of went, like, we don't get that. Like, you can't really, doesn't help the people that was supposed to help. So just think about how it gets integrated with the fencing when, maybe the fencing sides aren't the spaces they get the most plantings or something. I don't know. We have to figure that out.
I think, as you might expect, the bulk of our landscaping will be in the front.
In
of
the
building.
front. The review for the building itself when it comes, you might have your architects just consider showing us, a streetscape, what's there, and we take a picture or something and just, because what's there is already pretty interesting or not, and we're sure that this will have, the ability to improve that.
It'll look.
It's not going to be hard to improve on the existing buildings that are there.
Yeah.
Can Can I ask a question about the existing buildings? I don't know if I'm allowed to ask this, but I'm gonna ask it anyway.
Yeah, please.
How many apartments are there now?
There's 7 total. So
Only 7.
yeah, there's a 4 in one,
Oh.
2 in the other, and then
Okay.
the structure that's about to fall into the ravine, there's only one there.
Oh.
It's a small single family
And-
house.
What happens to the people who are in those 7 apartments?
So as of right now, they're not all occupied. So there's already some that are vacant.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so we've the everybody is aware of what's going on here. And so we've obviously told everybody that, you know, we're going to give everyone ample heads up in regards to the specific timing of this and when this happens. So yeah, the house on the right is actually, one of the units is actually occupied by the brother of the owner that I bought this from. We've already been talking about him as far as relocating this to another apartment that I own.
Yeah, I'm just thinking of like the housing crisis.
Oh yeah, no, we're yeah, we're definitely obviously
Yeah.
well aware of it, and that's why we're
Yeah.
giving everybody a
Okay.
you know as big a heads up as possible in regards to all this. Yeah. And it works to our advantage as well, because if you surprise people with this or do not give them adequate heads up, then in this state, it's a tenant state. They'll just dig their heels in. It's going to take you 6 months to get them out. So you're better off working with the tenant to try to find, different accommodations or alternative accommodations for it.
Okay, that makes me feel better. I actually thought there were more apartments than this, but
Yeah, no.
Other board comments? Staff have any more comments?
There is a public comment that came via email today.
Oh, good.
And this is from Steve Eustace, who is not in a butter, but he is a city resident. And his question is mostly, or his comment is mostly about the fact that some of the sidewalk that exists today is 5 feet 6 inches wide, not 5 feet wide. And his request is that the new sidewalk that goes in here would also be 5 feet 6 inches wide, as opposed to the minimum requirement we have in the code of 5 feet wide. Does lots of running in this area, and the extra 6 inches feel helpful. But just so the board is aware, the LDC requires 5 feet wide. It's not, it's something you certainly could request, but not something we could require.
What's the rest of the sidewalk along Pearl Street? Is it just 5'6" in this section, or is it all?
God.
I
Not
think
even
it's,
sure
I think
there's
it's
a
actually
sidewalk.
smaller because there's no bike lane there, so you might want to make it bigger because you'll have the bikers and the walkers and the runners. I actually think that part of the sidewalk is smaller than the other parts.
So I would spin it around the other way, because I think what we would probably do is match.
Looks like
They just
gravel. path.
redid all the sidewalks for the other building.
For the other build, yeah, the other.
And so I think it makes more sense to just match what they have instead of making this one. And if that's what they're talking about, we would probably just match what Mr. Handy did. Continuation past or through our property.
Yeah, he said, I can just say in terms of what's there, so he's measured the sidewalk width throughout between West Street extension and 235 Pearl, and it averages 5 feet 6 inches.
We'll match whatever's there. That's fine.
I think that's a drastic expense.
All right. Anything else? Any other comments? Nobody else on camera? All right. I'll take a motion, I think, to approve this conceptual application with staff comments and additional comments that have been given tonight. Thanks for the application. I think it really does, like I said before, it does a lot of good things that we're kind of looking for, and you're farther along on a lot of ways than you would normally need to be at conceptual, so that makes it easier for us to kind of see what you're doing. And you know, the staff comments are engineer.
Yeah, we're
driven, so
very excited about it. So
Yeah.
it's a great, as you guys know, I like infill sites, and this is exactly what I really like to do.
yeah. And as we told the previous at the previous hearing, you know, think about the things that you're able to offer for your residents in terms of amenities. One of them is location. I mean, it's ideal, but they kind of do like to do stuff outside, and access. You're right on the access, so that's fine. But you,
I think the bikeability, I mean, obviously, you know, we've had kind of had discussions when we developed, you know, across the street here, and the benefits of developing infill projects like this, you know, the biking I think is huge. I mean, we're going to be offering storage for the tenants in the basements so that they do have bikes and stuff, that they're going to be encouraged to have those. And then, you know, there's multiple parks within,
Yeah.
you know, or whether you're going to ride a bike to the edge over off of Susie Wilson Road, or even farther down through to I mean, really you have
the fort,
the whole fort area. I mean, just it's a wide open tennis courts and all sorts of stuff there as well. So there's a lot of amenities that are extremely close if you just give the people the accessibility.
yeah.
I think I'm gonna have to write a novel about transportation management for Act 252. So I'm sure we can share that with the board once I create that.
Yeah, no, having a stream right there is kind of fun. Although I don't know, you know, how much is encouraged with it, but it's not really a public resource in the sense that you get to go do a lot there. But it's nice. I mean, you might be able to put a picnic table or something out there.
Yep.
Let people enjoy it. All right. Anything else? We had a motion. Did we get a second? Need a second. Second. Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Abstained? Motion carries.
Thank you very much.
Very much.
Appreciate it. We'll be back soon.
Other development review board items. I would like to graciously welcome our new community development director, formally on camera. So, welcome. Do you want to say a few words to folks that may not know everything about you already, or just a simple hello?
Well, hello. Yes, I've just been here for 2 weeks, but I'm very excited to be working with the different commissions and different departments of the city to build the city towards its goals, both short term and long term. And yeah, please do not hesitate to contact me if you have any specific concerns about the LDC. If there's anything that we want to put on the agenda in the future for updating, I mean, I certainly have ideas, and you know, these are recommendations that we can bring forward to the planning commission when the time comes.
Thank you. And I just want to touch on that, the status of the current rewrite of the LDC. Do we know anything more about the timetable?
We do not as of right now. Chris is getting up to speed on what those amendments are. So we can just finally get it back in front of the council with the direction on what to do next with those. Once they warn those for a public hearing, everything that comes through to you folks needs to be looked at under both the existing code and the proposed code. So it definitely creates a bit of a bit of extra work, but that's just the process and how it goes. And yeah.
Okay. Any last time we talked about maybe a joint meeting with either the council or other review boards. Are we having any joint meetings with anybody anytime soon?
Not that we have scheduled for you yet. We are what we have been doing, you alluded to this earlier, so it'll be helpful to let you guys know, and we can get you this documentation when we get it figured out. But we have thought through some internal review changes. So things like tonight, when you've got these conceptual plans, we're thinking through a process that these would come to you much faster. So as soon as we get them, we figure out if they're complete, meaning you've got at least all of the basic details that you need on there. And the community development department would do a review on the zoning side of things, but we wouldn't necessarily do a technical review with Jeff or Chelsea or Ricky or fire chief, because it just is, it's time, takes a lot of time.
Yeah.
And we're reviewing plans that are just really conceptual in nature and don't have a whole lot of that detail anyway. Then those would come forward to you, and so you can, look at some of the basic things that you'd have issues or concerns with. And then we would move forward into the final design stage and have all of the technical review happen, as well as the zoning review, create those comments, then get those comments to the applicant. They address all of them. Then it comes forward to the DRB for the final review. So that kind of back and forth, the technical review, sending them to the applicant, making sure the applicant is acknowledging those comments or revising those comments, then coming forward to you, has also been happening at conceptual. And that's the real
Slow down.
time
Yeah.
scenario.
And
We
it's-
really want to do that at final so that what you guys are getting, and are confident that it works for all of the code reasons. And then the other part of the change that's less to do with us and more to do with you is that once you get to final, if you've got some concerns about lighting or landscaping or something else and you're not really like how it works, we're really going to suggest that you're continuing your hearing. You're not closing it and putting that to staff to figure out what's the right thing. We're going to suggest that you continue, and they've got to come back forward to you with a revised plan set so that you're comfortable with it before we actually close the hearing.
So we're gonna speed up the conceptual side of things, and we're gonna slow down the final approval side of things if we're not happy,
Yes.
which is fine.
Yes.
Does it right now? Do we still allow people to do preliminary and final all at once? Is it a size of project thing?
So for the most part, what you guys are seeing are site plans, and that's basically going to have a conceptual and a final. If somebody wants to do a subdivision, or we're in a planned unit development category,
Then
that's
there's
the
three.
preliminary.
Then there's a conceptual and a preliminary and a final.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think, the code right now does say they can combine those two. So one thing in thinking about this process is the land development code amendments actually take conceptual off the table. We made it optional for people to come in for conceptual, and being here on this side of the table, whereas before I told you that was a good idea from the consultant side of things, it seems like the way that this process works, we'd be better suited requiring people to come in for conceptual and requiring people to come in for final. So there might be some things like that we're going to sort of think through in that land development code package, and we might recommend that some things are held back, just so we can kind of see how this new system will work. And one of the things we're trying to kind of prevent with all of this is some developments that have been done, and we're realizing after the fact that they're not done very well, and really trying to just get way upstream of that and get the system working in a better way.
Good. And I think the quality of some of the applicants it makes that tough, because some people come in, they've done it before, they know what they're getting into, they're ready to, take the brunt of the process, which can be, you know, it can be significant. And others come in and they just want to do something and they don't really have that experience and they don't know what they're getting into, and then you feel like you're dragging them back and forth to try and get what they should be doing done. So yes, anything that we can do to help everybody get through the process would be great.
Yeah.
And after us, after the DRB, then it goes to the planning commission. Is that, where does it go after us? I should know this.
After you, you shouldn't know it. You're
Yeah.
brand new to the process, so
Good.
no.
Good.
Don't feel bad.
Yeah.
So after you guys give your final approval, then it essentially goes to the zoning administrator. And so depending on the size of the project, that's Chris who's going to issue that permit, or to Terry if it's smaller, she'll issue that permit. But a lot tends to have to happen in between those two pieces. And particularly this last application, they're going to go to Act 250. They're likely going to do a lot of that before you guys see final, I would gather. They don't have to do it that way, but I would imagine that's how they're going to do it. And there's all kinds of other state permits and lots of things that have to kind of get all lined up before they're ready to actually build.
So some of the other applications that we've already seen, we're going to see again if we've sent them off.
Well, these we'll see again because they were conceptual, right?
Yeah,
So
but
these
the
will come
other,
back.
I'm just thinking about a couple of the other ones that we had.
Yeah, I'm trying to think of what you've seen so far.
161 will come back.
Yeah, or I'm just curious about the one on the other one on Maple Street where they were going to fix. I mean, doesn't have a.
So the Maple Street one is an example
Yeah.
of, it came in front of you after the
After,
fact
yeah.
that it was built. So that's like a completely abnormal one,
Yeah.
and we are hoping to
Yeah.
avoid that in the
Oh,
future.
okay, good.
So the
Because I've noticed that some of the things we sent them away for lighting wise are still a problem. So I was just worried. I was just like, how does that? how do
they
we-
came to us before,
Yeah,
but
like that was-
we were the planning commission at the time, so it's
Yeah.
sort of a different
Okay.
problem because they only plan now, but before they also did this.
Yeah.
So it came in front of them, it was approved with all these conditions. It made it through the rest of the process and got into construction. They built it, and this is one of the places where we've been struggling is somewhere during the construction, the projects change.
Yeah.
And that's happened it's happened 3 or 4 times since I've been on the, in let's say 10 years. And that's 3 or 4 times too many really, because it's such a big process, and for everybody else who's doing what they're supposed to do, and for the community that expects
Yeah.
that to happen, it's just disappointing and sometimes frustrating. And so we'd like to just clean that process up a little bit, and it probably includes a little bit more attention during initial, like when somebody ends up with an extra story or none of the, doesn't look like what we were shown. It's pretty hard to imagine how that gets that far with,
Yeah.
but it does. It's happened, and it's happened in probably many municipalities, and it's one of those things where you want to, what's the political term? You want to trust but verify, something like that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You want to make that agreement, but then you need to verify that it's
But
really
that's what I was
happening
like.
that way.
One was abnormal, but there was things that we sent them away to do. So how do we know that they get done?
Yeah, so basically, when you send them away with conditions, if you're not holding up the process and asking to see that back in front of you
Yeah.
again, that basically goes to staff to work that out.
Okay.
So the part of this improved process that I suggested, you don't want to close the hearing.
Yeah.
As soon as you guys close the hearing, you have 45 days to make a decision,
Yeah.
and that's it. And no further evidence can be talked about or anything. So you want to continue so you actually get those plans and you can decide for yourselves if that's what you want to achieve. In this particular situation, that original planning commission approval for that project had a number of things that were just talked about as from the planning commission, and they were put in as conditions of approval. So we've been trying to work those out so that they end up being okay
Yeah.
and in line with the land development
Yeah.
code. The lights are the last thing,
Yeah.
and we will be doing a drive-by right now.
Yeah.
To
They
see.
were on last time. They were bright.
Yeah, last week they were too bright still.
They were, yeah. So
So
I was like, whoa.
we will
I'd never
go-
seen it, what they were talking about. And then I drove by, I'm like, oh, that's what they're talking about.
Yeah.
Like,
Just
okay.
if you're driving around in your car and you see something that's too bright, chances are that it's too bright,
Yeah.
and it really is bad. And that includes people. I'll see you see it all kinds of places, and especially with the homeowners that have the security lights on the driveway that look like floodlights that come on when in motion.
Yeah.
They aren't supposed to do that, like where they aren't supposed to point out and be visible past the property line. So it's a tricky one. The only time we've ever actually allowed something like that to happen in an approval was at the fire department, so that they didn't take their $100,000 more plus trucks and have trouble backing up. Right? That's the only time. Everybody else is supposed to observe the dark sky compliant and not have them faced out so that they're bothering the neighbors or traffic. And so I don't know how we sort of enforce that, because most people can go out and buy those and put them up themselves, and then you have it, and it was never approved, it doesn't comply, and
Yeah.
it can be bothersome. So just that's my plea for trying to remember to be gentle with your lighting. Yeah. Considerate, right? No, I've got neighbors that yeah. Okay.
It's bad for birds too.
All right. Any other good questions about our process? We're always trying to make it better, so thank you for that. Once you see the
good.
process happen in a few cycles, you'll be experts. And thanks for all coming tonight. I wish we got more people out in the audience, but they'll probably come by when they see the final for this, because they're pretty interesting projects. So anybody have anything else to say? I'll take a motion to adjourn.
I second that motion. No,
You make it.
You can make it.
I motion to adjourn.
Seconded.
All right, all in
Okay.
favor?
Aye.
Aye, all right. Meeting is over. Thank you.
Great.